Well, hello. Guess what? I'm back. I know it's been a couple weeks, y'all. It's been busy in some in tremendous ways. I'm going to try to do a tiny summary of what's taken place over the last few weeks, which means it's not likely to happen in a short time frame. So hang on to your stinking hands. Mine are covered in linen. If you don't know about linen, this episode's not for you yet because I'm not going to be talking about linen all the time. Today, I'm going to be talking about water. Yes, as in living water, baptisms, crazy, insane testimonies, because I just got back from a conference in Atlanta, which is gigantic, y'all. And everybody there apparently drives 20 miles an hour over the speed limit. Otherwise, they think you're a doofus. So, I obviously drove right along with them. I don't mind even a little bit. It was kind of exciting and exhilarating. But I suddenly had these flashbacks to a movie that brainwashed me terribly, like most of my generation, called The Matrix. I believe it was the second one, called The Matrix Reloaded, where they built a tiny track and did some outrageous stunts on the interstate. Did some crazy stunts on an interstate with cars zipping out of each other. Dudes with samurai swords cutting cars, tires, and pieces, and motorcycles launching off of bridges to land on top of other moving things. Tremendous. An incredibly exuberant time. But I remember a scene from that film where they said, "Remember the rules Morpheus taught us." Morpheus, the wise sage. Kind of a John the Baptist figure in some ways. Hold on. I hear rats. Dang it. Guys, I'm not hunting rats very well, as much as I'd like to. Anyways, I'm recording from a different location full of rats. That being said, Morpheus basically gave people, the download of teaching and how to survive in the Matrix once you're unplugged and then you plug back in. Seriously, dudes. There's rats just scurrying around like crazy because I'm suddenly speaking inside this container. Anyways, Morpheus would give people this wisdom about okay, now that you're unplugged from the Matrix and you wake up to the realities of the world that is all around you that you never knew was there the whole time. Once you go to plug back into it, because sometimes you got to go make disciples inside that world who make disciples. You got to go recruit in the Matrix. You know what I mean? First job, get out. Second job, get trained. Third job, get back to work, son. So that's kind of what he got him into. Well, one of the rules was never go on the interstate. Why? Why do they say never go on the interstate? Because Agent Smith could drop inside anybody at any given time in the middle of the highway. Agent Smith being a character a shape-shifting demon, metaskizmadzatoy, they're called in the scriptures. They're called shapeshifters. Marvel not. I think it's 2 Corinthians 4:4. I might put that reference in. Well, let's consult the sword of the covenant, shall we? If you guys don't know it, this is a sword. Use it. Sharpen it. Let's see if mine was sharp right there. 2 Corinthians 4:4. Mic check. Ready? Boom. Oh, no. Missed it. Oh, no. It's an important verse. It says, "In whom..." Oh, ready? Let's just read this. This is super salty. On point. This is characteristics of the dragon, who would be your Agent Smith in modernity, right? "Therefore, seeing we have this ministry, as we have received mercy, we faint not, but have renounced the hidden things of dishonesty, not walking in craftiness, nor handling the word of Yahuwah deceitfully, but by manifestation of the truth, commending ourselves to every man's conscience in the sight of Yahuwah. But if our basora be hid, it is hid to them who are lost, in whom the God, or the Eloha, of this world has blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious basora, or good news, of Hamashiach, who is the image of Yahuwah, should shine unto them. For we preach not of ourselves, but the Hamashiach Yahusha, our Adonai, and ourselves your servants of Yahusha's sake. For Yahuwah, who commanded the light to shine out of darkness, has shined in our hearts to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of Yahuwah in the face of Yahusha Hamashiach. But we have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the excellency of the power of Yahuwah and not of us. Though we are troubled on every side, yet not distressed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not forsaken, cast down, but not destroyed, always bearing about in the body the dying of Adonai, Yahusha, that the life also of Yahusha might be made manifest in our body. For we which live are always delivered unto death for Yahusha's sake, that the life of Yahusha might be made manifest in our mortal flesh. So then death works in us, but life in you. Boom. Okay, that was not the reference I was going for. Marvel not is the other one I was going for. For Hasatan, the dragon, transforms himself, metaskizmatzatoi, shapeshifts himself into an angel of light, and his disciples and apostles do likewise. That'd be your agents of evil. They do the same thing. But check this stinking chapter out. If you haven't, I don't know what's going on here. Sorry if I lost y'all. Nope, you're still there. If you guys haven't read this chapter, it's mighty. It's a super imperative, okay? That means like you're required to know this information before you can go engage in combat. Like your command director, your captain of the heavenly host has given you like rules of engagement. This is one of those chapters you should study and know thoroughly. Now, if you didn't notice, he said that the Elohim, the Eloha, like the God of this age, has blinded the minds. Think about that. The minds. That's part of the soul. Tripartite nature, man, spirit, soul, body. Okay? He blinded their minds so that what? To hide them. What? Lest the light of the glorious good news would shine on them. To keep them in darkness. Do you see what I'm saying here? He has a tactic of blinding the minds of people all around us so that they cannot continue to do anything but live in the darkness, to continue to see the darkness only all around them. And there's that scene where they're going around on this crazy highway, and the people were warned time and time again, never go on the interstate. Never go on the interstate, because you never know when that monster, right, that shapeshifter, that God of this age is going to step into those people who he's blinded, who he's controlling, right, and influence them to do all kinds of crazy things. Like in the movie, it played out as like Agent Smith would just drop into somebody and then make that person steer the car to try to crash or kill the other people, right? It was a lot of that kind of stuff. But I think the reality of most of our lives is that he targets us through mocking, belittling, right? Scoffing, making fun of us, because he uses words. I just got done teaching at a conference down there and just stinking standing on stage and preaching my heart out to the best of my abilities. I used every potential tool in my playbook that I could get my hands on. I literally brought my entire table of props and delicious, wonderful gemstones, seashells, and fossils, swords, spears, tiny swords, I'll admit, double-edged daggers. I brought everything, guys. Those of you who've hanging with me, you're like, yeah, you've seen a lot of it. Most of the folks there had never seen a spear come at their face, so I did that, and it was so incredible. I'm going to upload the video from that conference here shortly. The audio from my version of it and the version that I have available is not so bueno, but I'm going to refine it so that it's spectacular for you all. That being said, at the end of that conference, I was closing out the conference, so it was kind of like the finish line, right? I like to charge people out because I have a dream and a desire in my life that I prayed diligently for throughout my life, that I might be the last man standing. Do you know what that is? Do you ever think and consider, like, who's going to be the last man? Who's the last guy on the field of combat? Who is that? The sole survivor? Maybe. Is he the sole survivor, or is he like the last one cheering people on to the finish line? I've been reading a lot of books lately, guys. A lot of them on endurance racing, like ultra endurance marathon racing. Guys who run hundreds of miles. I've talked about Christopher McDougall's books. He's got a few out there. Running with Sherman, Born to Run, Natural Born Killers. No, sorry, Natural Born Heroes. Totally different story, Natural Born Killers. I won't go down that road yet. But a lot of what he talks about in there is trying to understand endurance. And this scripture tells us that we're in an endurance race, like the ultimate of all endurance races, that it's not a quick burst. It's not a sprint. It's not even a jog. It's not a saunter. It's not a journey. It's your absolute endurance till your death kind of a race, right? It's either you go and die or you're racing towards immortality. You recognize that you are either racing towards immortality or you're racing towards destruction. Those are the only two options at the finish line. There's fire waiting for everybody at the finish line. And what is that fire? For some of us, it's a refiner's fire, which is savage. Check this out. I've always got gemstones, right? Sometimes, if you haven't read 1 Corinthians 12, hold on. I didn't even plan on going in Corinthians, but apparently I'm going to be there. I hadn't ever read 1 Corinthians 12 until a guy showed up at my door one day who lived in a van, who drove a scooter around because his van didn't really drive around very well. But he was what was called an evangelist. Y'all ever hear of an evangelist? This is somebody that goes out seeking to make disciples. They're like Neo in the Matrix, going out and trying to make disciples, stepping into the war zone, the Middle Earth, where most everybody in there, like the broad way, is leading those people to destruction. But there's a few in there that he is on a mission to recruit out, to snatch them, right? To persuade, to convict, to exhort, to try to use every bit of his mind, his spirit, his will, his intellect, physical body, strength, capacity, diligence, labor, everything he can to try to grab people out of that, to set a hook in their jaw and reel that stinking fish off of the slaughter field that it's set on, right? I believe we all become hunters after we graduate from the course of being fishermen. Jeremiah 16:16. I'll read that plenty and talk about that in my conference talk, so I'm not going to dive off too much. But he was an evangelist, and his full-time job, no joke, was to try to recruit people for the kingdom. He would go out and street preach, right? He would go to, like, school gathering places. There's a lot of, if you haven't noticed, if you look around the rat race we live in, they build businesses right around schools that cater to feeding your children poison, right? Fast food joints and all the rest. He would go and recruit out of those kinds of places. Same place Army recruiters hang out at. All of those kinds of same spots. Army recruiters, guys, they're supposed to be, the military recruiters are supposed to be the one job in the military you get fired from. True story. They have lists of requirements that they must meet, quotas, right? Just like police officers at the end of the month when they must when they must fill that bill that's due every single month for all of them in order to keep their jobs kind of well fed. Anyways, it's a tough world out there. Well, those guys, we should learn some lessons from their playbook on how they recruit so saucily. They market super well too. I was standing outside of a grocery outlet store recently and saw a picture outside of a Navy recruitment center, and it was just a diver. I'm super off topic. I'll get there. It was a diver coming out of the water with, a nice goggle set on, and he was just coming out of the water. And there was bubbles coming up with the water. It was a really nice picture. And that was it. It was just a dude coming out of the water. But his eyes were these soldier eyes, right? That super intense, focus, mission-driven, like clear, Photoshop, clear eyes. Because I've never met a soldier who was doing anything that in real life that wasn't exhausted and bloodshot eyes and eating garbage MREs full of GMOs and poisons and hopped up on stackers, caffeine pills, and ibuprofen. Legitimately, guys. That's how the military runs, is on drugs. If you didn't know where methamphetamine came from and all those other street drugs that ruin most of our souls, U.S. military, some other militaries over there, but we did that for fighter pilots. We'd be like, guess what, guys? You're going to go get shot at for 6 months straight. Sound good? Yeah, here's a bunch of drugs to keep you awake on your bombing raid of Germany. Have fun. It's real. Go look it up. Anyways, that guy in that recruitment poster has the eyes of a soldier, right? He's got these focus intensity, and it just says Navy. Nothing else. Savage marketing, right? Relentlessly effective, apparently, because I've noticed around these parts, they just recruit with a simple picture like duty, honor, the glory of the Marines, right? And it's like some dude holding a saber. May not be a saber technically, because I don't believe they're mounted Marines anymore. It's a sword, their battle dress sword. It's not necessarily ever used in combat as far as I'm aware. I haven't seen a recent sword play by a Marine with his not battle uniform, but his dress blues on, dress greens. I don't know what color the Marines are. They're uniforms that are made specifically for dining out and looking fresh, pressed, and clean. Anyways, their recruitment strategies are very effective. They work really well. But they recruit a lot of the 16, 17 to 26-year-old zones, right? It's a great zone to recruit out of, you guys. And my friend, his name was Bear, by the way, like bear style, like groaning mountain bears. He would recruit similar age people, because he recognized there was a very, very good target audience to try to go capture. So he went after them with diligence. And I met this guy at a church once. He went to it one time, and then he tested the fruit and was like, I'm out of here. We stayed a lot longer, and we tested that fruit later on and realized we're stinking out of here as well. They were doing some amazing things about trying to intercede for the life of the unborn and trying to rescue babies from the murder factories down the road called surgical infanticide centers. If you didn't know, that's where they murder babies wholesale and then flush their body parts down the drain, which go into your drinking water down the line, and then we all drink dead babies. Shocker, this is why I tell you guys to drink spring water. Anyways, they were trying to rescue babies at that church, which was amazing. That was the first time I ever went and tried to intercede for the unborn. And I saw people from my previous mega church, Flatirons Community Church, driving in there with their bumper sticker logo on, going in there to murder their babies because the church, giant mega church, didn't tell them it's not a good idea to murder your babies. Fundamentals. But for them, huge mistake. Anyways, there's redemption and deliverance for any of you, no matter what you've been a part of or what you've done or been pressured to do or been made to do throughout your life. I don't say that to condemn any of you guys that may have this in your background. I hope you hear me. I've got a laundry list that's deeper than most people's nightmares have ever envisioned of bad news things that I was a part of and made to do. So I don't say that to try to crush you. I say that to try to crush the head of the serpent and his strategies, to try to disarm them. Anyways, he was an evangelist who full-time went out recruiting with every bit of mind and discipline and devotion that he had in him. And he was so good at it. And one day, you know what he did? Tried to recruit me. Because I was like, what, dude? I write books about the kingdom. I'm pretty straightforward. I never preached openly on the streets like he did. He was super brave, man. It intimidated the snot out of me. Literally, I cried and snot came out of my face because I felt conviction when he was around. I felt convicted. It was an uncomfortable feeling. I didn't like it, but I knew I needed it, right? This was one of the chapters he read to me. Let's see here. No, this may not be it. Hold on. All right, I tracked it down. 1 Corinthians 3, verse 11, okay? For other foundation can no man lay than that is laid. Oh, hold on. I'm going to go back one more. For we are, this is starting at verse 9. For we are laborers together with Yah. Ye are Yahuwah's husbandry. You are Yahuwah's building. According to the grace of Yah, which is given unto me as a wise master builder, I have laid the foundation, and another builds thereon. But let every man take heed how he builds thereupon. For other foundation can no man lay than that which is laid, which is in Yahushua HaMashiach. Now if any man build upon this foundation gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, or stubble, every man's work shall be made manifest. For the day, what day? The judgment day. The day when you stand at the end of your endurance race, the finish line. This is your finish line, y'all. If you didn't know this, your finish line is a giant judgment. On everything you did, you're judged on the thoughts, the intentions of the hearts, your heart, even your intentions of what you did. You're judged on those weightier matters of why you did what you did. What was your reasoning for it? He says, every man's work shall be made manifest, for the day shall declare it, because it shall be revealed by fire. And the fire shall try every man's work of what sort it is. If any man's work abides or endures, which he has built on, he shall receive a reward. And if any man's work shall be burned, he shall suffer loss. But he himself shall be saved, yet so as by fire. You ready for this? I'm going to keep going because this is salty. If any man's, know you not that you are the temple of Yahuwah, and that the Ruach of Yahuwah dwells in you? If any man defiles the temple of Yah, him shall Yahuwah destroy. For the temple of Yah is set apart, which temple you are. So let no man deceive himself. If any man among you seems to be wise in this world, let him become a fool, that he may be wise. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness with Yahuwah. For it is written, he takes the wise in their own craftiness. And Yahuwah knows the thoughts of the wise, that they are vain. So let no man glory in men, for all things are yours. All are yours. Do you get this? So there's a judgment seat, right? And basically this is what happens. You are going to take the summation of your life's work. This is the stuff that treasures in heaven. You ever hear Yeshua talking about how store not up for yourselves treasures on this earth where moths, rust, and thieves can steal it away? He says, but rather store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. Okay? This is the treasures you're storing up. Your life's work, the accumulation of what you've done with your time here. Every second you are accounted for on this earth. Every breath, every moment, every thought, every intention that you have done, you're accounted for. Like there's a shekeling, a weighing out, a counting of measuring, a scrutinying of every examination, right? Like your results of your life. And it's like you bring this stuff to this judgment of fire. And you cast all of your works into this great bronze burning fire. And what comes out of it is going to be either jewels, gold, silver, precious, where'd they go? Jewels, okay? Like this ruby. Looks prettier right there, right? I love this one. Or it'll be straw, hay, stubble, and it'll be burned like chaff. You ever throw like dust in a fire, like wood dust? It just instantly gone. And if you think about it, for some people, that's going to be their life's accumulated works are going to go up like that. Instantly gone. Everything you labored for will disappear. Anybody know anybody that died and everything they ever had died with them? As in everything they ever built their life on was immediately destroyed? Living out east of the Mississippi, I've learned that everybody's entire livelihood can get swallowed by the vines. Everything can get swallowed by vines. Everything can get swallowed by thorns in a matter of a couple of years. It's staggering. People's entire homesteads that they've lived on for 120 years. Really? These people built these things out of the forest they live in, and they raised generations of children there through the moonshining days. And they get devoured in a couple of years by plants. Plants eat their livelihoods. Plants eat all of their work. Animals will come along and build nests inside there and eat the walls out of there. They're called termites. Savage. It's all new to me. In the desert, nothing really does that. I've driven around and explored old mining ruins everywhere, all over the mountainsides. That was my favorite thing to do, was go find old mining ruins because I would pull bullets out of the walls. It's like nobody left. It's like it's just been there. But out here, none of that's the same way. It's not even like that. Everything just swallows itself. Every man's work gets judged. And Bear was sitting with Chelsea and I in our kitchen table one time, and he read this for us, and he challenged us and said, so what kind of fruit, what kind of works are you going to have at the end of your life? If I went and knocked on the neighbors' doors of everybody that lived around you, how many of them would know what you believe? Not just, oh, he's a nice guy. Oh, yeah. No, do they know the gospel because you exist and you are in their vicinity? Do they know whose you are? Do they know that you know who they are? Do you know anything about your neighbors? The people who physically live around you, guys. This isn't a theoretical neighbor. Like, love your neighbor as yourself. Most of us, me, frontline, guilty of this, don't go and talk to our neighbors. Like, actually talk to them like they matter. Because we're like, well, if things went badly, it'd be really uncomfortable to live next to them for the next 30 years like the mortgage I've got locked into. Yeah, it might be super uncomfortable. It might be your gemstones waiting for eternity, your reward. They might be literally your reward, your inheritance for eternity. It might be living a couple feet next door to you, and nobody knows it but you and the one who made them, because they might be praying and crying out and screaming to a God they don't know, asking if there is anything out there that's real like this, if this is real, if this can be trusted, or is all of it just a bunch of fairy tales and lies? Don't worry, the world's got plenty of offerings for that. The craftiness of this world, the wisdom of this world is constantly hunting those people's souls. And why aren't we? Bear challenged me with that. Didn't expect that at all in my life. It changed Chelsea and I. He asked us some super uncomfortable questions, and it changed us. It made us really think about what we were doing with our lives and what we were going to have at the end of it. These are what I'm going for, you guys. I am in an endurance race to receive these. I'm sure they might look better than this. I don't know. I wouldn't mind if they looked just like this. This is amazing. This is this is one of my favorite sapphires I have ever seen in my life. It's got this smooth slide right here. I love that. It feels great on my face. I want a full crown of these that I can offer to my king as my life's work. I want that. I want a good reward. I'm not storing up any treasure on this earth. I literally just am here to try to give it all away. That's what I'm here for. That's my name. My name is Nathan. For years of my life, I had no idea what my name is. I used to literally, guys, people would hang out around me and my daughter would call me Nate or Nathan. Not Daddy, really ever. She'd call me Dad occasionally. But she'd generally call me Nate, Nader, Nathan, stuff like that. And people were like, why does your daughter not call you Dad? And I was like, well, she's trying to figure out I'm trying to figure out what my names are. And they're like, what? I'm like, I'm still trying to figure out what my name is. And most people who clearly have never read my book or heard any aspect of my testimony, because they are generally uncomfortable if I speak about anything in my life, in my past at least, before a couple years ago when I talked about scary stuff like nightmarically bad growing up conditions, I lost my identity in there. I'd been raised my whole life. My mom at times would call me different names. She'd call me Levi sometimes. She'd call me Nate, Nathan. I've struggled with my identity. Other times Jason and Blades and literally different humans stuffed inside, different parts of my soul stuffed inside the same shell of a body. I struggle to try to understand my identity, right? Most every one of you watching this also lacks understanding for your identity. There's this whole other identity of who we are. That's what this whole entire thing is about. It's about teaching you your identity, because your identity was stolen by the one who blinded the eyes of all of us to keep us in darkness, right, where we could not see or discern or understand what was going on around us. We'd been blinded to who we were. We hear that like we're sons of Yahweh, like we're sons in his kingdom, we're daughters in his kingdom. But like we don't have any idea of what that really means. We don't understand what that gives us the right to. We don't know because we don't know covenant. I need to know covenant before I could understand. And I knew covenant from the kingdom of darkness's perspective, because my family took my identity and they inverted it. They twisted it inside out. Because my name, Nathan, if you look that up in the Strong's dictionary from the Bible, it gives you basically two definitions. I'm going to do it live. Ready? I'm going to do it right now so you guys can see this. Okay? If you just look up Nathan in the Bible, right? You're like, Nathan, search. 2 Samuel 5:14. First time it hits you up. This is, guys, Blue Letter Bible app. It's tremendously helpful as a study tool. I recommend it highly. I also really like Sephir's app. See that? Sephir. It's fantastic. These are my two predominant study tools. I love them because I can read the Bible and all the books and use this as a study tool on the Sephir app. But then when I'm trying to really figure out the interlineary, which is like the breakdown of the letters, like in this one, there's 2 Samuel 5:14. I tap the verse and then I can hit interlineary and concordance. Bink. And what it opens up, guys, you see that? That's the Hebrew. Modernish Hebrew, right? And then I can look down here and it tells me all of the words. There's the Hebrew. And then it shows me how to pronounce them even. Let's see.
Strong's H428. Ele.
That means now these, basically. Okay, here's the names of them that were born. Here's Nathan. Strong's H5416. Here's how they say it.
Strong's H5416. Nathan.
Okay, and then when you click it, you're like, oh yeah, I wonder what that means. Here's what it says. Nathan. Proper masculine noun. Root etymology. Nathan, meaning giver. That's it. That's all it says. Giver. I've heard people say, your name means gift. And I'm always like, so what? So what? That doesn't mean anything to me. Am I the gift? Are other people the gift? Am I supposed to give? Am I supposed to be here to give away? Am I just supposed to be the gift from God? I've heard people say, your name means gift from God. That's Nathaniel. That's like Nathaniel. Gift from God, Elohim. Gift from Elohim. That'd be Nathaniel. I'm not Nathaniel. That's not what my name means. And so I've wrestled with this, guys, forever. Literally, my whole life, as long as I've known. I didn't know what my name was. I didn't know who I was. And it drove me crazy. Not entirely. It made me insane. Let me put it that way. It made me absent of sanity. It shattered me. It broke my identity between two halves, right? They split my soul so that half of my mind was trapped in this world of Nate. The other half was trapped in Nathan. And right in the middle was this darkness, this wall of impenetrable darkness called confusion. It's a nightmare to live inside it, right? I think the Father calls it outer darkness. It's a horrible place to be. It's the Matrix without anybody else around you. Just nightmaric absence of existence, nothingness, confusion, chaos. That's where I was stuck all the time, waiting to understand what my identity was. And you know what happened? Sabbath entered my life. If you guys don't know about the super weapon, you guys are like, how do we prepare for a civil war? We're going to civil war. We all got to get ready for war. Stop it. War started the day you were born. Welcome, son, to the real world. You were born into the most violent, apocalyptic existence known in the history of the world. Really, the battle for the souls of men and women has never been fiercer. That's my contention. Go prove me wrong. I've never lived any other time. It's the fiercest time of all-out total onslaught because they've got these black mirrors in everywhere. I can't even go to the gas station without getting an onslaught of visual images, idols, constantly trying to persuade me and hook me in and snare me to drink Monster Energy drink, which has vav, vav, vav. It's basically got 666 on it. Monster Energy drink. Check that one out. Basically poisoned. If you guys are drinking carbonated beverages, please stop. Please drink life-giving water. Water. Try tea. Try natural food. It's amazing. It'll change your life. Stop drinking soda. It will kill you. Go watch a documentary called Coke versus Pepsi. I believe it's from the 80s. Maybe later. It's about the nightmare conditions. But one of the guys in there, one of the executives, is about the fake war, the artificial enemy they created in order to have a battle between the South Atlanta Coca-Cola Company and North Carolina's Pepsi Company. Atlanta's where I just was, and it was unreal to see how many humans drink Coca-Cola still. It's unbelievable. If you guys drink that stuff, some of you right now, I bet it's in your hand. You're touching it. And I'm not mad at you. I'm just furious at the monster who put that thing in her hand and made you think drinking poison, literal, actual poison, carbonic acid. You're eating poison. It comes inside an aluminum can, which is made out of nightmares. I gotta not get too distracted here. Coke and Pepsi. One of the executives, I believe he was from Coca-Cola. His job was to basically weaponize and engineer people's consent. He would tell people, never publicly, this was behind the meetings talk, don't ever forget that we sell water that's carbonated, flavored, and colored. Period. That's all they do. And I would argue poisoned. But that's all they do. And they make huge amounts of money. They're like the most powerful companies in the world. Do you realize this? And they're poisoning you with it. They use their power to destroy human beings' lives, to ruin human beings. That's their full-time job, is to get you to buy stuff that will kill you. Shocking. Anyways, their job is to take from you everything. That being said, my identity was lost in that outer darkness forever until I found the most powerful weapon in existence, which is the Sabbath. Guys, 6 days you labor, 7 you rest. Genesis 1. Like fundamentals. Can't go through any portion of the scriptures without hearing that story. It's made for you. Sabbath is a gift. Use it. I wake up on Saturday morning and I rest for 24 hours. It's amazing. I take naps, diligent naps. That's obedience. I spend time playing with my daughters strategically. I read the scriptures intentionally. And I stay up super late. Like, sometimes I stay up till the sun is coming up because I read Acts 20. Let's see. Man, I'm in the New Testament a bunch. The new renewed covenant land. Ready for this? Let's see. Acts. This is an awesome portion of Scripture. And if you guys haven't studied so hard that you fell over dead, you're rookie level, bro. Rookie level. Okay. Let's see if I can find this. Acts 20. You betcha. Here's Paul, by the way, talking about the Shabbat. Sabbath, because Paul kept the Sabbath. What? I thought we did away with all that stuff. I didn't think that stuff mattered. You're going to read in this chapter alone, Paul's doing the feast, doing Sabbath devotedly. Like number one priority was to still follow the instructions of his father because he loved him and he did what his father said was life. I want life. I want you to have life. Read this and do it and it'll give you life. Here you go. And upon the first Sabbath, this is chapter 20, verse 7. For you who need to know the point of reference. And upon the first Sabbath, when the Talmudim, that's like disciples, came together to break bread, Saul preached unto them ready to depart on the morrow. And he continued his speech until midnight. Let me just go back again. You ready? This guy preached all day and night. Savage. It's amazing. And there were many lights in the upper chamber, meaning they had a lot of oil lamps going, where they were gathered together. And there sat in a window a certain young man, 18, maybe 12-year-old, potentially 12 to like 18-year-old. That's generally classified as a young man, 12 to 16. This would be what we put him in prisons of indoctrination called middle school a lot of times. These young men, by the way, were qualified to go to war with their daddies. If you were 12, come to battle. 13-ish, right in there, that's a young man. When you see Gideon's son being commanded by his father to murder the king, I believe, of Moab, he was a young man, probably a 12 or 13-year-old, being told to wield a sword against a king of 180,000, 120,000 army. Pretty intense, right? That's because children are more than capable of that. And you should treat them likewise. Anyways, this young man named Eutychus, being fallen into a deep sleep. And as Shaul was long preaching, he sunk down with sleep and fell down from the 3rd story and was taken up dead. And Saul went down and fell on him, embracing him, and said, "Trouble not yourselves, for his life is in him." When he therefore was come up again, and had broken bread and eaten, and talked a long while, even till the break of day, so he departed. And they brought the young man alive, and were not a little comforted. Did you hear that? Paul preaches so savagely, people fell asleep because they didn't have caffeine pills as far as I'm aware. Maybe they did. I never tried any of the ancient Roman caffeine pills. They just make them in modern versions called stackers. They're nightmares, guys. Don't get into them. He's preaching so long that this kid, young man, falls asleep, falls out of a 3rd-story window, probably because it was hot, because they had all the candles going inside, and it's the Middle East, y'all. It's a desert of hotness. Been there. Savagely hot. He falls out of the window, dead, 30 feet. You ready? Here's a rule about 30 feet zones. 30 feet, I can't bend this finger super well. 30 feet falls 50% of the time. If you fall 30 feet, 50% of the time you're going to die. That's a big rule when you like learning how to like rappel off of buildings or out of houses, or when you do rock climbing, and when like you learn how to tie your own harness in the military. This is one of those principles, fundamentals. Don't forget this. It might just save your life, that they teach you. 3 stories up, if you fall, 50% of the times you die. Not injured, die. Because it's catastrophic at that pace. Once you're coming down that fast, it's non-recoverable. Almost always, okay? Meaning, more often than not, you die. Okay, this is super important. He's sitting outside that window, falls asleep, falls out the window, dies. Don't worry. Because it's the Sabbath, and because that young man was diligently hearkening unto obedience to his father's commandments and instructions, life was given to him. Life was breathed back into his death, and he was resurrected. And he was fed the bread of life. First of all, when Saul was teaching him the instructions, when he was teaching him and preaching to him, he was being fed the bread of life. And then when he came to consciousness, does you see what it said? When he'd broken bread. Yes, if you didn't know it, almost all the bread you've ever eaten in your life was literal poison. It's the dainties of kings. Chelsea and I are launching into a whole other episode of life. Like the Becoming a LINENITE savage. We're dialed in. We never stop linen hunting, and we send it all over the world to anybody who needs it. So if you guys didn't know that, we have a Facebook group called Becoming a LINENITE. Buy, sell, and trade. And we'll send you linen. We try to find it for super cheap and just send it to people if they need it. So now we've also like next leveled it with bread. Yeah. Flour, microcosm of a story here. Flour is not food. What? It's not bread. It's not even real bread. Enriched flour, all this stuff. It's not real food. It's poison. It's literally going to kill you. They take the bran, they crack the wheat open, the actual wheat seed kernel, I guess, and they take out the bran and the germ. That's where all these vital minerals, vitamins, oils, vitamin E's, all these incredibly important things to give you life come in. They rip them out and they give you this white pastry-like flour, right? Isn't that great? Because we can store that basically indefinitely. But when you crack the grain, you have to use it within a couple days or it goes rancid. This is why when you go a lot of times to travel overseas or in Europe and other places where people do this, where they mill their own grain and then they eat it. They cook it into beautiful breads, and then if you don't eat it in like 2 or 3 days, it's completely moldy. That's because that bread's still alive, whereas most all of everything we all eat is dead. You can go to major milling. There's a woman called Sue Becker. We've been watching a lot of her material. I got to meet her because she lives down in Atlanta and has an amazing warehouse full of amazing grains. It was like a candy shop of wonder. I can't get too distracted in this. We're going to do a whole video series on bread. Get ready. Because Yahweh said he'd curse our bread, he'd curse our water, he'd take away our linen, he'd take away our wool because we broke his commandments. But he said basically, if you return to me, I'll give them back to you. And I think that's what's happening. Anyways, this gal, Sue Becker, she's been doing this a long time, teaching people about bread. It's amazing. I got to meet with her, and I got to learn a tremendous amount down there. But I'm going to reserve that for another series. But basically, people in mills will say to you, why don't you guys? There's a woman in New Zealand, went to a big manufacturer of a mill. She asked them, hey, question, why don't you just feed the population, humans, the bran and the germ, and feed the animals? Because big granaries, big mills, they sell the bran and the germ to animals. Pig feed, cattle feed, because it makes them healthy and fat and plump. Not belly fat, like life fat. And the guy said, if we fed the livestock the flour, they'd die. Like they'd die. We can't do that. Yes, if you just eat the flour, you die. This is why celiac disease exists. Anyways, I can't get too distracted. They fed the young man who died bread, and he came back to life. Also, question, when the pot of lentil stew was poisoned by a bad gourd of mushrooms, what cured it? Look it up and comment below. Go do your own sword study. Anyways, this is amazing. If you didn't realize it, the Sabbath, he preached so savagely that the guy falls out dead, comes back to life. And anyways, the next day, Paul was determined to sail to Ephesus. Oh, wait, hold on. Anyways, I'm going to pass over. I'm going to get distracted. Okay, so on Sabbath, I'm reading like in Acts right there. And I get to a portion, just before that, I got to a portion in Joshua. Joshua 1. My chapter studies go all over the place, okay? I was reading on the Sabbath, that's why. Anyways, I'm back on track. In the book of Joshua, if you haven't read Joshua 1, I put that one chapter. That's the one chapter of the scriptures I put in my book. The whole chapter, chapter 1. If you haven't read Joshua chapter 1, I challenge you, go read Joshua 1 and memorize it. Memorize it, the whole chapter. You can do it. I know you can, because you've memorized nonsense garbage songs your whole life. Joshua 1 is one of the most powerful scriptures you can ever. It will sharpen your sword. It's like layering on immortality into your blade. You guys ever think about having a sword that was so sharp it could cut through anything? In the movie The Matrix, Morpheus has this samurai sword, which is always sweet and super sharp, and he cuts a car, like the tires, and ruptures the tires, and the car somehow, because of that, launches itself into the air. It's amazing. That is like what Joshua 1 will do to your sword. Check it out. But here's a word in there. Ready? And until Yahuwah has given you brethren rest, as he has given you, and enjoy it. And Moshe, Yahuwah's servant, gave you on this side of the Jordan towards the sun rising. He's talking about where their inheritance was. And it said gave. And I was like, gave? I wonder what that word is in Hebrew. I wonder what gave is. Don't worry. Let's check it out together, shall we? Here it is. You ready for this? Nathan. Nathan. But this time, same Hebrew Strong's Concordance. How many times is it used? You ready for this? Look at all the definitions and meanings of Nathan, not included in the previous reference to Nathan. Look at this. It's rich. How many times is it used? 2,008 times. What? I'm reading this on the Sabbath, and I'm like, wait a minute. Does this mean Nathan is in the Bible from the beginning to the end? Oh yeah, you ready? How many times is it used? First time it's used, Genesis 1. Let's see. Wow, it's a different Greek version word that's used all the way at the very end of Revelation too. So from beginning to end of Genesis to Revelation, the word Nathan is being said in Hebrew. The letters, the word, are nun, tav, nun. Okay? Nun, tav, nun. That's how you say Nathan. Or that's the letters, how you spell Nathan in Hebrew. It looks a little like this, guys. I've been studying Hebrew. Trying to, diligently. Eric Bissell, Paleo Hebrew. Highly recommended. Check it out. Noon Tov Noon. Okay? That's Nathan. So if I could, because I have a desire to be able to read my Father's language. I have a desire and a goal and a mission and a calling and a purpose on my must-dos before I die. Make myself ready for my King. Way up there. Should be first on your priority list. Be ready for war. Born into it. How do I fight? I got to be able to read this, right? I got to be able to read this. But I don't want to be dependent on other people's words to tell me what that said. Because there's these books out there, scrolls, sephers, called the Dead Sea Scrolls. They're the oldest copies by and far, large produced copies that we have. They're the oldest texts, actual manuscripts from thousands of years ago that are written in Hebrew, written in Paleo Hebrew by and far. And I have a desire to be able to read for myself what they say. I want to read what the Tanakh says. That's like the Old Testament. I want to read what it says with my own eyes and be able to understand it personally. I want to not have to be dependent on a scribe, some guy who's there to tell me what it says. I want to know what it says. I want to know what it says because you know what? I was raised by liars, and I hate that. I hate that liars still run the world and raise up our children and raise up our friends and raise up our families and raise up our best friends and corrupt them. I hate that. I can't stand that. It's infuriating to me. And I want to know the truth. And I want them to have access to know the truth. So I need to be able to know what these words say. And if I could read Hebrew, and if I could have opened up my Bible that has, I think it's the Strong's Tanakh, if I could have opened that up and known what Noon Tov Noon meant, I would have seen my name, the first chapter of the Bible. From day one. First time I really read Genesis, I believe I was 4 years old. 4 years old. Because by the time I was in 5th grade, I had the first chapter, by the time I was 5 years old, I'd memorized the first chapter of Genesis. They do these memory classes, right? Children are incredibly good at memorizing information. This is why when they used to raise children up, the Hebrews and the Israelites, they used to have them memorize the whole Torah by 9. You had 9-year-olds running around with stinking sharp swords, man, cut you to pieces. They could quote for you Genesis, Exodus, Deuteronomy, Leviticus, and Numbers. Oh, wait, did I miss one? Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy. They could quote for you any verse. They didn't even have verses then. They just could quote for you the book. Think about the power in that child. Dang! No wonder why by 12, they could go out to war. Because they were sharp, son. By a lot of them, they had the whole entire Tanakh memorized by the time they were teenagers or men. That's amazing. Why don't we have that? Instead, we've got memorizations of nonsense lies. I was required to memorize the names of all the Freemasons who ran my country. I had to memorize the other Elohim's names, Greek gods. I had courses that mandated I learn Harry Potter's witchcraft and sorcery in order to pass through the 4th grade. What the heck is that? This is entry level. I know it's way further on now. But I was mandated to read sorcery books in my schooling in order to pass it. I had to memorize their gods' names, memorize how they did their witchcraft, sorcery, divination. I was commanded in the scriptures, you're commanded to not even talk about them. You're commanded to not study their ways, to not learn how they work, to not learn how they worship their gods. You're commanded to have nothing to do with that crap. And instead, you're commanded to destroy it with violence. Physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual violence. Drive that crap out of your life and don't allow it to ever come back in. That's what Psalm 91 is all about. Anyways, I had been memorizing Genesis from as long as I could remember. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Genesis 1:1. That was rookie level entry. They had memorization classes at this Bible school I went to called Sunrise Elementary. Maybe I'll include a picture of that now. They had Bible classes, and they made you memorize scripture. Important. But you know what they didn't have us memorize? Hebrew. I don't know why not. I was learning a language at the time called English, not Hebrew. I couldn't pick up, to this day, I still can't pick up a Hebrew Bible and read it for myself. Why not? Why isn't that the most important thing we learn in our life is the language, the words, the letters of his scripture. It's him. Like, Yeshua was the Torah, the words, the letters, literally in the flesh, the logos, the logic. He was the expression of it here on this earth. I should know that. I should know that. If I'd known that, I wouldn't have been stuck in confusion and outer darkness all those years of my life up until 3 days ago. Because I had to realize, I wrote this whole book trying to decide and understand what was my identity, what was my purpose now. Because I used to be a monster and a murderer. Literally, my identity was ensnared and so entangled with killing, violence, sexual urges and madness and hatred and rage and drugs and intoxication and numbness and self-mutilation that I couldn't even get my head around being a righteous man, like being a father. So when my daughter would call me Nate, that's good. Nate's the sweet, awesome, happy side of me. Nathan's the side of me that's business professional, doesn't know how to function in a world that's happy and playful. I didn't know who I was. And then about a year ago, I started instructing my daughter, like, hey, I'm your father. I'm like your dad. You can call me Papa. You can call me Dad, Daddy. Like, that's my name, honey. To you and you alone, well, in Jubilee alone, there's no other dad. Nobody else gets to call me that. And she was like, oh, that's precious. She literally said that. That's precious. That's rare. She understood that's rare. You're the only one who gets to call me that. And so don't call me by my name. That's who I am to you. That's my identity to you, right? And it helped me to hear that I'm her dad. Like, to hear her call me that. But you know what's helping me? To see my name in the scriptures. Because what it's giving me is now, this is what it says Nathan means. To give, bestow, grant, permit, ascribe, employ, devote, consecrate, dedicate, pay wages, exchange, lend, commit, entrust, give over, deliver, yield, produce, to put, to make, to be given, bestowed, to be entrusted, to be granted, to be set, to be made, to be inflicted, to be given, to be put upon. There's all this other depth of meaning to what Nathan means, that I finally have something I can sink my teeth into. But if I had always spent my whole life just believing that my name was just given, I would be stuck in that confusion. I challenge you guys to go study and learn for yourself what these words mean, what these instructions mean, because it will give you life. That's all I want to do. That's all I'm here to do. My purpose, my little set before me. Every time somebody says my name, they're saying your job is to go bestow upon people the gift that he has given me, which is faith, which is boldness, which is confidence that he is who he says he is, and he will do everything he has promised to do, that his word can be trusted, that he is life, that obedience to him is life. I want to give life to people because you know what the enemy, the dragon, did to me? He inverted my name. He took my purpose. He took my calling, my destiny, what people said when they said my name, and he made it the opposite, the inverse. So what's the inverse of someone who's here to bestow, to give? It's someone who is there to take, to steal. So I became someone who took life, who stole life. Every time I went out under that spiritual influence, I stole life. And it ruined me because it was the opposite of what I was made to be. And yet I believed I'd swallowed the blinding light of the fallen one and took that in and let that become part of my identity. I let them fashion my soul to look like that image. And it was a lie. And every one of you, you have a name. You have a name that was given to you, which is part of your purpose, part of your destiny. And if you will diligently seek this scripture, study his words, learn his language, learn his identity, learn about his name, his character, who he is, like his identity, it will show you and allow you to express your identity, your purpose, your destiny on this earth like nothing else in this world will give you. It will be pure. It will be lovely. It will be exuberant. It will bring you joy and exalt you to a place of meekness. It will make you teachable. It will make you humble. It will make you courageous and confident that he can be trusted to fulfill your purpose on this earth. I love you guys so much. This was not at all what I thought I was going to talk about, but I hope it encouraged you tremendously, because you know what? I was blessed beyond measure to get to go down to that conference in Atlanta, to get to jump onto that crazy interstate and drive around with a bunch of people speeding their life away, desperate to get from one thing to another. And you know what I realized though? On all of that racing around down there, when I dropped into that room and I got to set up my table and I got to put all of these things out, I had a table full of gemstones. I got to learn some incredible lessons that I can't wait to share with you guys when I put out that video. So I got to pause now, guys, or it's going to get a little bit too much. I love you guys so much. Thank you guys. So many of you have blessed Chelsea and I and Naomi and Jubilee. You guys have given of yourselves tremendously in so many ways to us. You guys don't know it, but those of you who do know exactly what I mean. You've supported us, you've fed my family, you've clothed my family, and you've equipped us to be able to clothe the remnant, to clothe the naked out there, and I thank you for that. To you, mighty man Nick, thank you for the arnica. It helps with serious injuries like this, because I just went savagely chopping my way through a briar bush, and one of those briars went straight inside my knuckle and out the other side like a fish hook. Yowza. I need a handguard on my sword, guys. That's what the Makairas should have. If you guys haven't looked into it, what's it called? Let's see here. What's it called? A Phelops? Nope, maybe not. Dadgummit, I just lost it. I'm worn out. I'm exhausted. I'm most enthused, and I hope you guys would go live vibrantly. So thank you to those of you guys that supported us with wonderful medicinal herbs that are healing my jabbed finger here. You guys are champions to us. I pray you go live diligently out there with passion for, every single opportunity you can. Be an opportunistic hunter. Build up some good work. Store up some good treasures, you guys. Seriously, go store up some gemstones. I mean it. Go work hard. Recruit. Recruit. Go recruit for the kingdom. Go sharpen your swords and go recruit for the kingdom, okay? The days are evil, right? You guys know this, clearly. I don't have to tell any of you, because if you watch the Black Mirrors, they'll tell you it all the time. But listen, the good news is the days may be evil, but you were born for such a time as this. So live dangerously and fulfill your purpose.